it does wear out.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. In the absence of the chair and vice chair, as city clerk, I will call this meeting to order and preside over the selection of a temporary chair to preside over this meeting. So at this time, are there any nominations for a temporary chair to preside over this meeting?
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Linda Waterhouse.
Yes.
Nomination for Linda. Is there a second?
That?
Second. All in favor, show of hands.
Do you know that?
Then
Good morning.
I
You didn't know
guess
what
I
you were
just
walking
know.
into, huh?
Congratulations, Linda. I assume you accept too late. Why don't you take a seat where the chair sits, and I'll ask Teresa to swap out the nameplates.
Well, congratulations, and what a surprise.
Is it in the book? Is it gonna be in the book?
Yeah, yes.
This,
That you guys all supported me.
this is a little sheet I prepared with, little notes, a few notes on it.
Okay. So we're gonna start without Derek.
And that takes us to item 2 on the agenda.
Pledge allegiance.
Will you lead us in the Pledge
Yes,
of
ma'am.
Allegiance, Mr. Gambrell?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, there's the cause of the accident.
I didn't think lawyers had hazardous duty.
Would you like to start the roll call?
Yes, I will. I'll begin the roll. Board Member Gambrell.
Here.
Board Member Waterhouse.
Here.
Board Member Benson.
Here.
Board Member Galloway.
Here.
Board Member Wynn.
Here.
Chairman Raccio, and he asked to be excused today. Vice Chairman Ben Hershenson. Mr. Hershenson, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, so we will need a motion, a second, and a vote to allow Mr. Hershenson to participate and vote at this meeting.
Yes.
I motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That takes us to item 4. And if you like, I'll read the title out loud.
Sure.
Item 4 is case name Old 41 Commercial Plan Development, which is a request to rezone approximately 10 more or less acres from the Commercial Plan Development CPD zoning district to a Commercial Plan Development CPD zoning district to develop up to 6 buildings with a maximum of 39,500 square feet of commercial uses, 80,000 square feet of self-storage/mini warehouse uses, and 70,000 square feet of light industrial uses.
All right, this item is a quasi judicial item, so anyone intending to speak today on this item, please stand and be sworn. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, even the lawyers.
Good morning, Zoning Board. Mary Tornberg, Community Development. This is a request for 10 acres to, as you heard, rezone from commercial plan development that has expired to a new commercial plan development. So in your packet, you'll see there's a new master concept plan, schedule of uses, property development regulations, and schedule of deviations and justifications. Staff does recommend approval, subject to the conditions outlined. The applicant did have a few inquiries about some of those conditions, so they'll address those today if there's time. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and let the applicant proceed. And to let you know, our staff traffic engineer is on the line as well, if you have any questions.
I got a question real quick. We're doing this again because a time limit ran out on the original one?
The original one did run out, but they're asking for a completely different schedule of uses as well.
When did the original one run out?
That was back in, it was a 2004 approval, and it has 5 years, so 2009.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning. Francesca Passidomo for the record. Our firm represents FREP Old 41 Development LP in this petition to rezone a parcel from its existing commercial plan development to a new commercial plan development, to modify the master plan, reduce commercial square footage, eliminate outdoor storage and sale uses, and add indoor self-storage and light industrial uses, to appropriately integrate infill development that leverages context-sensitive design and uses. And briefly to speak to the question on the existing plan development, Ms. Kulak will walk you through that. The master concept plan under your code does have a 5-year duration to achieve a development order for it to stay alive. The master concept plan has elapsed, but the zoning is still commercial, just to clarify that. In terms of our presentation, we have an entire expert team with us today. Connor McBroom, representing the property owner and petitioner, will provide briefly his company's expertise and foray into the South Florida market. Then Ms. Kulak with RVI, our planner, will walk you through the nature of the request, the very delicately planned master concept plan. She will be followed by our architect, Robert Deirdricks, who will show you renderings of the proposed buildings. He will be followed by Sabrina McCabe, the landscape architect for the project, who will demonstrate the cutoff lighting requirements as well as enhanced buffering that has been provided through this master concept plan. An important theme you'll see through this project is how this master concept plan and the uses have been adjusted to provide for a much more probably compatible mixture of uses than exists under the existing zoning. Sabrina will be followed by Christian Casey, who is our environmental expert. He'll explain that there are no listed species on the property. The property has been cleared for some time. Mr. Casey will be followed by Brandon Copper with Davidson Engineering, who will walk you through the stormwater design and verify that utility capacities are adequate. And then Ms. Kulak will close the presentation with a summary of the request and open it up for questions. Of course, in the course of our presentation, if you have any questions, please direct them to us. The property briefly is on Old 41, far north of the Old 41 downtown area. To the west is Old 41 and an industrial park. To the south is an open space and detention area in Bonita Isles. To the east is a preserve and open space area in Bonita Isles, and to the north is Moose Lodge and an industrial area. With that overview, I'll turn this over to Mr. McBroom to walk you through his firm.
Hi, good morning. Connor McBroom with Forager Real Estate, Inc. As manager and sponsor of the applicant. We're an integrated commercial real estate development firm with offices here down in Naples and also Toronto, Canada, where we are originally based from. We've been invested in the Southwest Florida region here for over 3 years now, and the proposed project would take our footprint in the vicinity to over 250,000 square feet. We've owned the property for over a year now, and wanted to emphasize that we're fully invested here in the market, committed, and fully intend on bringing this project through to fruition. We've assembled an expert team that you'll hear from today, by and large a local team. We've collaborated well with members of city planning and are excited for the opportunity to present this. We feel that we've been extremely thoughtful about the way that we've programmed this site, responding to significant supply-demand imbalances that we see in the market, particularly for smaller format commercial space, and we've also introduced a private mini warehouse component that responds to the need for secure, storm-rated, vehicle and other valuable storage, but highly compatible and will accommodate a lot of small businesses and medium-sized enterprises as well, that we see, there being a dearth of in the market, good quality accommodation. So with that, I'll turn it over to who's next? Over to Patty. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Patty Kulak for the record on behalf of the applicant. Let's get into the project, shall we? As a property overview, the site that we're talking about this morning is a 10-acre site that is directly accessed off of Old 41. As you'll see on the screen, the image is an existing aerial of the site. The site is currently a landscape supply company that also has storage in the back for vehicle uses. And all of the existing structures that are shown on the screen will be removed, including all of the storage of the vehicles. Looking at the zoning and the future land use designation for this site is commercial, and it will be remaining commercial. And the existing zoning is a commercial plan development that we are changing the uses for, as Francesca spoke to earlier. Going over this site with their neighboring properties, directly to the north, we have the Moose Lodge. And further north from that, we have some heavy industrial uses, which is a concrete supply company. They do manufacturing of seawalls on site. Directly to the south, we have the Bonita Isles community as a whole, but directly abutting our property is their stormwater retention. To the east, we have that Bonita Isles Community Preserve land, and to the west, we have Old 41 right-of-way, and then commercial retail on the opposing side of Old 41. On your screen now is a copy of the 2004 master plan that we are changing. And our request includes the single entrance off of Old 41. That entrance is the same one that is there today. I'll speak to that later in this presentation, but we will be maintaining that existing entrance. We are proposing 6 separate buildings, 39,500 square feet of commercial retail, which will front directly on Old 41, with 4 buildings behind it that will total 150,000 square feet of flexible commercial uses, light industrial, and that storage and mini warehouse in the back. All of our buildings on site will be no more than 30 feet in height, and we are including an enhanced buffer along the south property line directly abutting that Bonita Isles residential community, which will be 25 feet in width, and we did include a 6-foot wall or fence at the request of Bonita Isles. On your screen now is a copy of the master concept plan that we are proposing. Again, you see the first 2 buildings that will be fronting along 41. We have building 5, which is our first commercial building, and then we have building 6, which will be our other commercial building. To the north of the property, we have our first light industrial use, which will be building number 1. South of that, we have building number 2, which will also include some of those light industrial uses. And then getting further south on the site, closer to the residential, we will be in that warehousing mini storage component of the uses. Speaking to deviations, this request does have 3 deviation requests. The first one is that access off of Old 41. As I mentioned, we will be maintaining that existing access. The code requires a separation of 660 feet from any neighboring entrance to a neighboring site. The site currently does not have that, and since we are maintaining that, this deviation is required to be requested. The separation that we have to the north is 459 feet, and the separation from the south, which is that Bonita Isles entrance, is 587 feet. As you'll see on your screen, here are the arrows showing where those separations are. The access to the north is for the Moose Lodge, and as I mentioned, the access to the south is for the Bonita Isles community. Deviation number 2 is a request to remove the requirement for the perimeter plantings on all sides of the buildings. As you saw from our master concept plan, we are proposing to include our landscaping on the end caps of each of the buildings because these buildings will be situated as storage facilities with the garage doors that open up. We need that vehicle access to provide that so that landscaping could not be provided directly on all four sides of the building. So we compiled that square footage and are putting it on the end caps to make nice landmarks for each of the building uses. And deviation number 3 is a request to remove the distance requirement for consumption on premises and off premises for the dwelling units that are closest. We do not have any schools, religious facilities, or daycares, but we did pull that from the code, just to be clear. Again, because of the separation with Bonita Isles, we do abut their stormwater management and their preserve, but there is one residence that is within that distance requirement, so we want to be sensitive to that with the request. These consumption on premises uses will only be in the first 2 buildings, those 2 commercial use buildings that front Old 41. I'm going to pass it over to Robert Deerdeck to go over our architecture.
Hi, my name is Robert Derricks. I'm an architect with JMDG. We're a Naples firm, but over the years we've done some work in Bonita. I was responsible for the Bonita Springs poker room as well as the sports complex next door. We're now involved in this. I want to speak to the architecture a little bit. If I can back up the planning slide. There we go. Yeah, that was fine with that. What we've done here is we positioned the retail at the street side of 041. That provides us a kind of a screening for more of the industrial applications behind it with the warehouses and the car storage. As you can see, that provides good screening with a central access point to the back area, which can be secured. We've taken all the internal garage doors for the buildings and faced them inwards on the property. So the building on the top, building 1, it backs up to the industrial area in the Moose Lodge. All that resides back there is some transom windows on the back of the building. We follow design code for building offsets, which clearly aren't shown on here, but we do have offsets in the rear wall, as well as parapet heights that vary to soften up the overall massing. So from the building 1 working inward to the second building, it's the same product, which is the flex space, which we call it's like a mini warehouse and a commercial type of industrial uses for make carpentry shops and items like that. That building 2 is really building 1 mirrored on itself, back-to-back applications. So the look is consistent through there. We've gone with a kind of a commercial, as you can see from the earlier slide with commercial real estate. We kind of walk that element structure through the whole project. Rectilinear changes in mass, height, offsets in the building and the retail. We provide some rain screening. Some units are recessed, some have canopies. And we alter it back and forth to create some variation. We're going with more of a contemporary modern theme. We're doing grays and charcoals and some textured concrete to add some texture and a little bit of shading elements to break it up. As we move to the southern portion of the property, if you go all the way to the bottom on building 4, it's really car condos type of usage, and we've backed up the building to the property to the south. There'll be transom windows on the first floor and second floor, fixed units. Canopies, parapet changes, and again, which is not represented on this slide, there is offsets in the back of the building and parapet changes to break up that massing as it faces a little bit more towards the residential. And so its garage doors are facing inward again. As you go north to building 3, it's the same building 4, but mirrored on itself, similar to what building 2 was to 1. So that building 3-4 will be all fenced in and secured. The intentions primarily there is for car storage, vehicle storage. And that pretty much speaks to the kind of the overall massing on what we did on the site plan. As far as the exterior elevations, like I say, it's a combination of canopy overhangs to provide rain coverage, and as well as inset and we alternate from unit to unit. There's basically three elevational unit types that come across the commercial. Building 5, Building 6 are almost mirror images of each other, except Building 5 is larger and has a little different center element to it. This here would be Building 1, looking north. They're 30-foot wide units and incorporate a garage door and an area to the left that can be considered an office space if they wanted to. So you can provide more of a storefront kind of office environment with the warehouse features kind of behind it. And that element, it's repeated through the building, since it's not being viewed from 41 or from other external sources. We just kind of repeated that element. Units can they can join multiple units together. And that applies to Building 2. It's the same elevation. This next slide here is looking at the corner of Building 4, the front end of it. This is with the car condominiums for storage of vehicles primarily. We got 14-foot tall garage doors. They're laid out with mezzanines. So if people want to convert them in, like, you know, man caves, they have the ability to dial it up a little more for themselves. And Building 3 is the opposite of that, just kind of a flip. We're using a lot of relief lines and taking a precast approach for the structure. So it's all masonry. The roof system will be steel frame with bar joists and composite decking. And there's a lot of natural glass light bringing into the car storage if they want to use it as more of a recreational facility, privately, of course. And that's about it. Okay.
Next, we'll bring up Sabrina McCabe to speak on our landscaping.
Good morning. Sabrina McCabe, Director of Landscape Architecture for RVI in Bonita. To start off, I'll talk about the site lighting. We will be providing fully compliant site lighting that will have the appropriate shielding as necessary to meet requirements, so we won't have any light spread. Looking at the site plan to start, we will be providing the 15-foot type B buffer along 41, the 5-foot type A to the north, the 15 type B to the east, and then to the south, the 25-foot, where we'll be enhancing it with taller landscaping as well as a fence and wall condition. We will be working also, as you'll see further in, with the existing tree survey. We'll be doing our best to work with what is existing along the perimeter where we are able to keep that. There's a lot of nice vegetation and trees that are sitting right on the property line. We'll be using native species and enhancing, as I said, the size of them so that that fence will not be visible. Eventually, we'll be hiding most of it at, I think, a 48-inch height to start, and maintaining it so that will turn into a vegetation wall fully to the south. And it'll work really well on the 15-foot buffer with the streetscape and enhancing that along 41. As you saw in Roberts, it's a beautiful architecture, and where we do have circulation for the commercial, we want to be able to have a good pedestrian experience. We've been able to, as Patty mentioned, deviation 2, we're still providing the amount of building foundation plantings, but with larger areas, we can fit larger species and layer it. We'd like to add some interest at the entry and then continue that really nice buffer perimeter. So using species that will help complement, as mentioned, there's live oaks and pines and species out there currently, sable palms, so we'll be using more of those. I did meet with the tree advisory board. Oh, and here's our line of sight exhibit as if from Old 41, looking across to our buffer that you'll see, which sits between the easement and our parking lot. So that'll create a nice streetscape cleaned up to its current conditions now. The height of the buildings you'll see as well work nicely with the views. So this is our existing tree survey, which we did meet on site with Tree Advisory Board to review. There are a couple of trees that are larger that we will have to remove, and we'll be replacing those as recommended by Tree Advisory Board to the same caliper size. So those will be a minimum of 8-inch caliper to start, 20-foot height, and we'll make up that to meet those sizes. And as you can see, a lot of existing vegetation sits right on property line, so we're gonna do our best as we get through into the next process to keep as much as possible, and then we'll be able to enhance with those additional trees that will be worked back into the site, as well as all the rest of the tree requirements for the parking lot. So yes, as the visor is 69 inches currently, so we'll be replacing, at a minimum that. And I think, we'll be able to do a good job with that space we have to the south, especially against Bonita Isles. And I'll pass it on to Christian.
I have a question, please.
Question for the board, sorry.
There is, you've identified on the plan a forestry reserve. There's a forestry reserve sign along Old 41. What is that?
Forestry Reserve is the existing landscape company that's on site right now. So they are a landscape supply company. That sign will be removed. That's the name of their business.
Previous company.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Morning. Christian Casey, Atwell Environmental Consultant. The property was surveyed on August 13th, 2024 for the presence of listed species. During the survey, no listed species were observed on site. In addition, the survey did not find any indigenous habitat for listed species to use on site.
Thank you.
Ta-da.
You're fine. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Copper. I am with Davidson Engineering. Since I have not had the pleasure to deliver a presentation in front of this board before, I would like to take a moment to briefly introduce myself, some of my experience and background. So I went to school at Florida Gulf Coast University, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I've been with Davidson Engineering for 6 years now, where I had the pleasure of working on a variety of projects throughout the state of Florida, all the way from Polk County to Marco Island. We specialize in site, stormwater management, and utility design, and I currently hold a professional engineering license with the state of Florida. So enough about me. Let's touch on the existing conditions. Potable water service is provided to the site via 2 water service lines that connect to a 12-inch main on the west side of Old 41. There's an existing fire hydrant on site that is also connected to that main. There is no public sanitary sewer service, and currently the wastewater is disposed of via septic tank and drain field. So when this project first kicked off, we reached out to Bonita Springs Utility to confirm that they had adequate capacity to support this project, and they did confirm that there is capacity. We plan to utilize the existing 12-inch water main as a source of potable water and fire service. We will extend the main throughout the site to create a loop system. Each building will have its own independent water meter, as well as fire suppression system fed off that main. At the request of Bonita Springs Utilities, we will intercept an existing 10-inch water main that exists in an easement beyond the southern property line. And we're going to extend that main over 700 feet along Old 41. That will create a loop in the city system, as well as provide a connection for when the property to the north redevelops. For sanitary sewer, we will extend an existing gravity sewer main located again in an easement beyond the southern property line throughout the site. We will bring it into our site. Each building will have its own individual connection to that gravity sewer main. And again, at the request of Bonita Springs Utilities, we will extend that gravity sewer main an additional 100 feet to our property line to the north, allowing for a future connection should that parcel develop. Throughout the process, we had to make a few concessions. Primarily, we decreased the building footprint for buildings number 5 and 6, the ones along Old 41, and that was to accommodate both Bonita Springs Utilities and City of Bonita existing easements along Old 41, so that there is no overlap with our landscape buffer and that easement. Stormwater. As the site currently exists, there is virtually no stormwater management as we know it today. The northwest, almost 2 acres of the site, discharges into a small structure that is conveyed to a drainage easement along Old 41, and the remainder of the site just kind of sheet flows off. We are proposing an underground chamber containment system to attenuate both City of Bonita's and South Florida Water Management District's water quality standards. Stormwater will discharge into the Old 41 right-of-way via a control structure that limits the rate of discharge. And our stormwater management system has been designed to accommodate impacts to the floodplain that is partially on our property along the southern end. If you want to take a look at the previous slide, you see all the blue areas identified on that site. That is where these chamber systems are located. So there's no surface water management pond or dry detention area. All of it is located underground in those areas. With that, do you have any questions for me?
I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if they're environmental related or civil engineering related. First of all, I think you've done a nice job of presenting your plan for the future uses. But I'm curious as to what level of diligence you did with respect to existing conditions as they may relate to the condition of the soils and the groundwater beneath this site. Do we have any, given its previous history, have there been any underground storage tanks? Are there drums on this site that are unaccounted for? Are we aware of any groundwater contamination that may have existed previously? Are there any concerns regarding soil and the creation of dust that might be a problem for the nearby residents at Bonita Isles? How would you address those types of issues?
So speaking directly on the stormwater side, I can attest that there was extensive geotechnical exploration for this site where we determined where the groundwater table was and also the infiltration rates associated with the existing soil. I personally am unaware of, not to be said that it hasn't been done, but any assessments, but I do believe that there was a phase 1 assessment completed.
Francesca Pasadomo again, for the record. I just spoke with Mr. McBroom and confirmed that there was a site assessment conducted prior to acquisition, and the report revealed that there are no environmental impacts. So that would mean that the property's clean and no further investigations were warranted.
Good. So you tested the soils for previous possible spillage from landscaping equipment? et cetera?
Every requirement for an environmental site assessment was conducted, yes, sir.
We don't have that, do we?
And to answer your question about dust and pollution control, throughout the duration of construction, we will propose a silt fence barrier, so that allows the mitigation of any pollutants that run off site to be captured. Yes, sir.
This underground chamber system is designed to collect stormwater runoff, and when it fills, it then goes into Old 41 gutters onto the street?
No, sir.
What did I miss?
We are discharging into a actual structure that has a hard pipe attached to it within the Old 41 right-of-way. So our surface water will be conveyed underground.
That's underground
to an
also.
underground containment system. So nothing will actually be in the roadway per se.
Okay, so the system that's on site, so that's good, thank you. So the system that's on site, we're collecting stormwater runoff in a retention area that's underground?
Yes, sir. It functions almost the same as, I would say, a typical surface water management system that you will see that occupies, we'll say 20% of your site, but it's just a pond. Price of land these days and everything in between, we've been going towards these underground storage options just because it allows you to maximize the use of the site.
So there, we see on the site plan, there's a retention area with the residential area just to the south of what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
So how do you put a roof over a retention area?
It's pavement. So this chamber system, you see the little domes?
Yep.
They're all interconnected, so stormwater flows into your stormwater structures and is spread out over a large area. You'll see a stone bed underneath that, which allows stormwater to percolate into the ground, much like it would if it was a typical, dry detention pond, we'll say. And then all of that is contained and held back and limited to a rate of discharge, which we size with a control structure. So we're not just allowing the stormwater to enter the system and blast into Old 41. We propose we call it a weir, so it's like a small structure with a hole in it, and then the stormwater bleeds out of that based on a limited discharge rate, which is regulated by both the city and the water management district.
So this picture we're looking at here is before the parking lot it becomes the roof of this?
Yes, sir. So they'll backfill that whole area with stone and then put their base layer for their pavement and then pave over it.
So there's more fill to be done in this picture?
Yes, sir. That's kind of what you can kind of see in the background.
Okay.
More. They have stone, and then it goes, base and pavement on top of that.
And that's got the capacity of retention that's required for this amount of paving over?
This is a typical picture, but that picture shows, yes, that system does.
Section. There's a section,
Yes, sir.
which is gonna cover that whole blue, what that blue is.
Yes, sir.
Parking lot.
Parking lot.
Parking lot, drive aisles, yes.
Why aren't we doing this? Never mind.
Uh,
Seems like a great idea.
Money, that's why.
Yeah. There's that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Thank you.
Next, we're going to talk about transportation with our transportation engineer, Yuri.
Morning. For the record, Yuri Baiko with TR Transportation Consultants. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Florida, and I've been sworn in and accepted as an expert in transportation planning before. We did prepare a traffic study for this rezoning application, which, as previously mentioned, is requesting an approval for up to 39,500 square feet of commercial retail uses, 80,000 square feet of storage mini warehouse uses, and 70,000 square feet of industrial uses. We also prepared a trip generation comparison between our proposed rezoning request and what was previously approved as part of the previous CPD, which was approved for up to 126,600 square feet of commercial retail uses. So when you compare the two scenarios, our proposed rezoning request results in a significant reduction of traffic. More specifically, it results in 78% reduction in PM peak hour trips. So we just wanted to emphasize this because it's a significant reduction in traffic from what was previously approved as part of ordinance number 0416. We also prepared our typical link level service analysis on the surrounding roadway system. In this case, we analyzed Old 41 adjacent to their site, and the results of our link level service analysis indicate Old 41 to operate acceptable level service C, both with and without the project in the future traffic conditions. So again, there is sufficient capacity on Old 41 to support this rezoning request. We also conducted intersection analysis at our proposed driveway on Old 41, which lines up opposite of Burnwood Drive, and that analysis indicated no level of service issues or delay issues as well. And so that's all the analysis we were required to prepare at this time during this zoning stage. Should the rezoning be approved, the next step in the process will be to go through a development order process. At that time, we will prepare another detailed traffic analysis. And that's it for me, unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Bringing it back to our planning items. Before this petition even was submitted into the city, the developer chose voluntarily to reach out to the Bonita Isles Homeowners Association Board to introduce themselves as a developer, but also to introduce the proposed project. So no offense to the city, but they were the first ones to see the plan, and they saw that back in July of 2024. Prior to that, actually. And then from that, we did the required neighborhood information meetings. We hosted one that was in September of 2024. And at that meeting, we did have a strong presence from the neighbors. Such a strong presence that the next day we chose to do a voluntary, fully Zoom meeting hosted after hours to accommodate any of the working class that was not able to attend that meeting the day before. After that, we did a in-person and Zoom meeting for the post-sufficiency. So there's been numerous opportunities for outreach from the community. We've also kept in contact with The HOA board invited them to have discussions, invited them onto the site. We've given them copies of the plans throughout every change that we've made. And after our last post-sufficiency NIM, there were about 6 people who requested a copy of the PowerPoint that was provided. I gave everybody the same PowerPoint that was shown throughout that neighborhood information meeting, and it included a copy that was then circulated through their Facebook group for just the residents themselves to ensure all residents were informed of what was happening on that neighboring site. So while we look at the land development criteria for the rezoning petition, we are in compliance with both the land development and the Bonita plan. We meet and exceed all of the performance and location standards for the proposed uses, which we will speak to momentarily. We looked at the intensities and the general uses, and they are consistent with the comprehensive plan. We have determined that the request is compatible with the existing and planned uses in the surrounding area. Speaking to that, going back to earlier in the presentation, we do have that heavy industrial to the north. We come to our site, which is that flexible commercial that encompasses some of that light industrial, so we're limiting the uses down further, and then we get into the residential. And even specific to our site, we've used those uses and lessened the intensity throughout. So speaking to buildings 1 and 2 to the north, those are the only 2 buildings that will have any of those light industrial uses, similar to the heavy industrial to the north. Then when you go further south onto our property, we get to that less intense use, which is the mini warehouse or storage car condos, to really limit any of the exposure to the residential that is directly to the south. Moving forward through the criteria, we will request the environmental effects, and we have shown that we have done all of the required studies for the site to show that we meet the requirements. There's no adverse effects to the neighboring residential. We have shown that the public facilities are adequate, all levels of services will be maintained, and that the deviations will enhance the objective of the plan development, one of those deviations being the one that is already on site for the separation from the neighboring units. Looking at our schedule of uses, we are working continuously with staff to go over those schedule of uses and changing those throughout. 2 of the changes that we've already discussed are highlighted here, but again, we're going to continue to work with staff to move through those schedule of uses. We have been open with Bonita Isles about our uses, and from the beginning of the project to current day, I can say that we've dropped over 14 uses, and we're continuing to work with staff throughout those. So going over for our conclusion, again, we request approval for this, given that staff is also recommending approval. But when we look at the consistency, we are aligning with the comprehensive plan for Bonita and the land development code. We are reducing the impacts for traffic. We are having enhanced capabilities for all of our setbacks. We are including that enhanced buffer along the south. The overall improved buffering, the overall improved use of the site, given the existing uses on the facility. And we are balancing the mix of heavy industrial to the north, bringing in that commercial element that's really needed in this area to help serve the neighboring residential. And with that, we do recommend approval for this. And that is the conclusion of my slides. I can answer any questions, or I can pass it over to staff for their presentation.
Any questions?
I got one. Go figure. The code originally required landscaping along the perimeters of all buildings.
Correct.
And one of the variant deviations you're asking for is we're just going to do end caps because we need access to get in and out of the building, garage doors. Makes perfect sense. Is the project really in favor of doing landscaping islands on the east side where nobody's going to see it?
Yes. We're not only caring about the residents that surround the property, but also those that will be within the property. And the purpose of adding those elements on the end caps is to create a space for the users to be able to leave their unit, take a break outside, enjoy, the weather before it's too hot, and also to just get outside so that the uses that will be in the site, we also want to be respectful that they would like some landscaping. They want to be able to utilize the site that they're paying money for. So in those landscape elements at the end caps, there will be elements such as benches, the shaded trees, just providing a nice outdoor experience for them. Even if it's not visible, we want to make sure that the project holistically looks nice, meets the requirements for the amount of landscaping on it, while still being a nice element for all residents, including those on our own property.
Fantastic answer. I see little hatched out gray areas in the landscape buffers. Is that like where dumpsters are gonna go?
Yes, so all of the dumpsters, you guys got fancy new technology, so I want to use it. So our dumpsters are shown at the end caps. These sites we spoke with the utilities department to ensure that there was access for the vehicles. So you'll see that all of the locations for the dumpsters are directly abutting one of the access points for the site. And all of them will also be screened from view, both, again, for internal users, but also for residents outside of the community. I believe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's 6 dumpsters in total.
Uses outside the community?
Sorry, residents outside the community. Nobody's using our dumpsters outside.
Say that sentence again. Residents, who's using them?
Only our internal users will use our dumpsters, but they are screened from view from anybody outside of the site.
From view. Okay, I missed the screen from view part. Okay. That's great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. With that, I'll pass it over to staff.
I think we take public comment now, don't we?
No, we'll ask Mary to come back to the lectern, and then you can ask questions of staff.
I do know where
Good morning again, Mary Tornberg. I can go through my presentation or I can just touch on the key points that I'd like to mention. It's your pleasure.
I vote key points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially where you didn't have a decision.
Yes, I'll get right there. Correct. So deviation 3, I did not recommend approval or denial. I felt that there needed to be more analysis done by the applicant as far as how the deviation criteria was addressed. Where this particularly applies is for the package store, which is proposed conceptually within 500 feet of residential. So if you'd like to allow the applicant to come back and address that for you, you're welcome to. Again, I just needed additional analysis there. So package store within 500 feet of residential property requires that deviation.
But what would additional analysis tell you to help you with the decision?
Well, you have your deviation criteria, and number 2 there preserves and promotes the general intent to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. I felt they needed to touch on that a bit more to make a decision. Again, if you'd like to hear that, they can do so.
Hear it from who?
The applicant.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
What are there other high points you want to bring up?
Or really briefly, we did have a discussion yesterday regarding retail and wholesale sales, which we are in agreement would be ancillary to the permitted uses, which would be consistent with the commercial plan development zoning designation and the general commercial future land use. The applicant does request personal services group 4, which would include tattoo parlors. They want to specifically limit it to tattoo parlors, and it was from until 11 p.m., correct?
Correct, 7 days.
7 days a week. Traditionally, that personal services group 4 is one of those uses that we limit locations on, and we it includes bail bonding, tattoo parlors, and fortune tellers for that specific section. So they're asking for only tattoo parlors open until 11 p.m. 7 days a week.
Just to add, we'll also include Patty Kulak for the record. With that tattoo parlor, we are requesting it to be appointment only, 7 days a week until 11 p.m. And the thought process behind a regular tattoo parlor is it also includes the use for permanent makeup. that by state regulation is a tattoo. So in order to accommodate that use in addition to regular tattoos, we want to include that use.
You got a prospective tenant like that already?
We don't, we just want to leave it flexible.
Or looking that far ahead? Okay,
Yes, always.
that's your job.
So along those lines, where exactly is the package store proposed to be on the site, and what's the distance to the nearest residence?
It would be, if one comes in, it would be either buildings 5 or 6, so those two front buildings along Old 41. That distance is in the deviation. Hold on. No, it's not. Do you know that distance?
I mean,
From building 6 to,
I'm guessing building 5 is much farther away from residences
Right.
than 6, right?
Yes, buildings 5, which is the buildings to the north, that one is in excess of 330 feet from residential, and to the south, it's just under 100 feet. What we're also including with that is because the property to the east is that preserve, even though there's no residential units on it, it still is zoned residential, so we need to account for that as well.
So does the zoning require the actual establishment of the building or the location of the package store? Was where you measure the distance, or is it the driveway to the?
it would be from the location of the package store, which they don't have the specific unit yet, if there is one.
I mean, can you, if you did have a package store, can you put it in building 6 rather than building 5?
Without,
Or 5 rather
in
than
5
6?
rather than 6, so long as that distance requirement is met, correct, they wouldn't need the deviation for that.
Seems like that might be something to consider.
And then the other use that we were discussing was the manufacturing of fabricated metal products group 2, which I was proposing to be located at, and I think you had it written that way, at buildings 1 and 2, so those two northern buildings where they're proposing the majority of their light industrial uses. Fabricated metal products, includes the manufacturing of shipping containers, metal containers, but it also includes screws. Based on avoidance of unintended consequences, those sounded like pretty intense equipment that you would need there, and therefore we didn't feel it was appropriate. Again, the applicant can further explain why they feel that they need that on their schedule of uses.
I mean, are there noise concerns?
Definitely noise, odors, dust, and then, all that comes with
Waste.
manufacturing of that type. Right. And then additionally, the shipping containers, because we have that 40-foot maximum length limitation for vehicles, it could be conflicting in ways. We don't know the specific products they're putting out, and they don't know their intended tenant yet. So.
And the applicant's okay with this new list of uses?
They
that
were,
you've been showing us?
besides those two specific uses, the fabricated metal products group 2 manufacturing and the personal services group 4. Those were their two that they would like to address.
I'll just provide one comment. We're working through those specifically, so we're trying to narrow and condition them. So those are, between now and council, we've already spoken with staff that we'll refine those, so what goes to council ultimately will be holding hands. So that's really a summary of where we are with those. There's about 3 of those at this point.
Understood. Good idea.
So I'm pretty comfortable with the future land use. Have we taken a look at the construction sequencing? And how active is the site going to be during construction? Are you going to be building all these buildings at once? Is your traffic going to be twice as much during the construction process as it is during the future use of the project? And what kind of impact will construction trucking have on residents?
Morning.
Dust?
I didn't want to get all dressed up for nothing.
Yeah.
We are a little early in the process to start talking about that. Before anyone shows up with a shovel, we'll sit down with the applicant, with the contractor. We'll start talking about construction sequence, maintenance of traffic for both Old 41 and what they're going to be doing within the site. The development order was basically their site engineering plan. That's going to be handled at that stage. They'll phase it if they want, include it all together if they choose. That's going to be a discussion at that point.
So you'll look at those things in the future?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Those are my key points. If you have additional questions for me, please let me know, or we can proceed to public comment.
Surface water, go figure. I understand the basic concept is when we pave over something, we need to set aside a space to where the water that normally would have gone into the ground, the water's gonna run off the pavement and go into this retention area.
Right.
And there's evidently some kind of ratio that's been figured out long before any of us came to these positions. It's a ratio, right?
Correct, yes.
Hey, Sean. How do we know the capacity of this underground system? How do we know it meets those ratio requirements?
So we have code requirements, and then the Water Management District also has code requirements, and ours are more restrictive than the Water Management District. So they have to give us the numbers of how much actual pervious and impervious they're putting on the site, and then they come up with those calculations. We also have the ICPR modeling, so they have to make sure that all of that is addressed. Again, that's done at time of development order.
But this is the first, I've been here, never mind, years. This is the first time I've seen an underground system. How do we know the capacity of the underground system?
Based on their calculations.
Who's they?
Brandon Copper. So we take the footprint of the slide that I showed you, work closely with the manufacturer of that system, and then we implement that into a hydraulic model. That's the ICPR model that she mentioned earlier. We plug all of our site data into that, and we drop a storm event on it. Both 3 from South Florida and 1 from the city of Bonita, because they're special and they require their own. And then we can tell what that storm is going to stage on site, so where that water is going, how high it's coming up, and that's where we essentially set our control structure and design that for its limited discharge, and that's also how we determine what the floor elevation for all the buildings are going to be. So these are models that are tried and true. We submit them to both the city of Bonita for their stormwater reviewer as well as South Florida Water Management District for their review.
So when you say model, is it actual experience?
This is a program.
Like AI?
No, not AI yet, but we're worried about it.
Meaning, when I say actual experience, a system like this has been built and they've measured what its capacity is and...
It's a standard size, but it's also custom in the number of them that you provide on your site.
Yep.
And each one has, we'll say, X amount of volume. You line up all of these in this many rows and that wide, so you can determine the capacity of that system, and that's what we plug into our model and for storage provided. And then we drop the storm event on it, and then we see where the water levels come up on our site. These systems are not new. They've been around for probably over 30 years now. They're only becoming more popular, again, because of the price of land, but there are hundreds of examples in South Florida alone.
Okay.
Just one quick follow-up question. Is it primarily designed to provide storage, or is it to provide infiltration capacity?
I would say both. There are options where you can select to have them more of like a containment system, so there actually isn't infiltration, but it does provide as much storage as it allows for water to infiltrate. And infiltration is a component of the model.
Well, that's part of your model.
Yes, sir. And that's why we do a lot of upfront geotechnical sampling, so we can determine the natural rate of infiltration of the soil as well as what we're going to be bringing in.
So it essentially performs as a leaching field in some ways.
It's similar to a drain field for a septic system.
I was gonna...
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the actual design of them, they're very similar. But that is not our only means of discharge. So we do have a control structure, like I said, that limits the rate of discharge off-site. So in some of those more intense storm events, it will be discharging, but at a limited rate, and I will say a lot better than what exists out there currently.
I'm back to Mary. So y'all, the development group has studied this extensively, and y'all are happy with Y'all are clearly happy with this. You're satisfied with the numbers?
At this preliminary stage, yes. Again, at development order, they give us very detailed calculations, which I know they're actively working on the development order. So yes, it will go hand in hand to make sure that the project functions as it should.
Y'all look at it closely again.
Absolutely.
Stuart, y'all are gonna look at it closely again.
We take stormwater seriously, yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Anybody else? Any other questions? On to public comment.
Public comment?
Any public comments?
Doesn't appear to be anyone.
Okay,
wishing to
no
offer
public comments. Do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the rezoning of approximately 10 acres from the current plan zoning to the proposed plan zoning with the exceptions as noted by the city.
Do we have
Second.
a second?
Second.
I'll record a roll call vote. Board Member Nguyen.
Yes.
Board Member Galloway.
Yes.
Board Member Waterhouse.
Yay.
Board Member Benson.
Yes.
Board Member Gambrell.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hershenson.
Indeed, yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, board.
You got a gavel.
No, we're not adjourned yet.
Oh.
That takes us to item 5.
We're moving on. So, did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes, I've got one question. Mr. Clerk, when do we see, and where does anybody see the actual contents of a motion? The wording?
Isn't it stated there? I don't have the minutes in front of me.
It's not exact. I'm just wondering if there is ever an exact writing down, noting what a motion
Are you
is.
talking about a specific item here on this?
Yeah, we had a motion, and then the motion got amended, and then,
You talking about last?
the
month.
minutes we're looking at.
So, well, it's clearly stated here. So, Board Member Waterhouse made a motion to recommend approval of the rezone request with the revised staff proposed conditions, seconded by Board Member Nguyen. A discussion ensued regarding the wall versus a landscaping plan along Bonita Beach Road. Staff and Mr. Yovanovich answered questions from the board members, et cetera, and it goes on to say Board Member Waterhouse amended her motion to further recommend that between now and the city council hearing, the applicant and staff work together on a deviation to the setback standard for Bonita Beach Road. Board Member Nguyen, who seconded, agreed with the motion maker's amendment, and amended his second accordingly. The motion carried 5-1.
Okay.
So it is stated there in the, in the
I
body.
was asking if this is what the motion was.
Well, this was an unusual,
Well, yeah.
it wasn't just motion to approve, second, obviously, that's a lot easier to record. So that's why this is a little bit.
So
she
what,
amended-
what goes to town council? What do they see? Just the two paragraphs
And
you just
and
read?
and it went to the city council.
City council.
That the motion carried 5-1, but it also noted the recommendation. So the recommendation that between now and the city council hearing, the applicant staff work together on a deviation to the setback standard for Bonita Beach Road.
So this is as official as it gets
Yes,
for future generations to read.
yes.
Thank you.
So,
That was
okay.
my question.
Did we have a motion to approve? And there's a second? All in favor? Say aye, raise your
Aye.
hand. Ben?
Yes.
You, yes? Okay, any opposed? Motion carries.
So we're moving on to the update on previous cases.
Good morning, Zoning Board. Jacqueline Gitson for the record. The two cases that were heard last month was the Telco Facility Special Exception that was heard at City Council at their last meeting. The council did go ahead and approve the recommendation based on staff and this board. Hickory on the Bay goes for their second reading tomorrow, and the applicant and staff have been working diligently together on those conditions as recommended by this board, in addition to some other matters. So tomorrow, if you'd like to tune in and watch, it goes for second reading tomorrow.
So that included the vegetated wall rather than the wall?
Correct. Vegetated wall, and they've actually offered to put in some elements of some architectural, like a fence type metal structure wall. So just some other things have changed definitely since this board heard the application.
Worked with you to do that?
Correct.
So we're going from a brick wall to a metal wall?
It's a decorative iron type structure at certain key elements, tying into the landscaping to make it a more aesthetically pleasing frontage.
We need a fence?
That's up to them. They proposed that, not staff. So it's whatever the applicant, their pleasure is. So that was the last proposal.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
No, there's no one here from the public, so that could just take us to item 8.
Okay. Our next meeting is tentatively planned for October 21st.
Wait, we might
Is that date right?
not be correct. It was changed.
Good morning. Yes, we do have one case scheduled. It's a variance, and the meeting's actually 1 week earlier to accommodate various schedules.
It's October the 14th.
I believe that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Give that a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go.